Welcome to Book World: The Great Escape. I'm author C.J. Peterson, along with my co-host over here, author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a special guest, author J.R. Knoll. Before we get
Hello.
down there, hi sir. Before we get down there, Mike, how was your week this week?
We've had a pretty busy one. Melly and I were at the Arkansas Comic Con in Little Rock, Arkansas. And used to be a 2-day Comic Con. Now it's 3 days. So we got there Friday and come back Sunday night. And it's always been an excellent Comic Con. We had another good Comic Con. And we sold a lot of books. Got to meet some other authors that were down there. And I'd say we had a good time, but we were busy most of it. Little Rock's a great place. And the downtown area where the State Convention Center is you can walk a couple blocks any direction and get great food, live music. It's a really neat place. And anyway, we had a great time. And last week, I believe it was last week, found out that my latest book, Pringle Prawn, won the reader's favorite. I got it one reader's favorite honorable mention for Pringle Prawn, which I was quite proud of. Reader's favorite is one of my favorite platforms, no pun intended, for book reviews. It's been a platform that I've followed for many, many years, and I've never had a book that has won a reader's favorite award before. And it's one of the largest online, reader review and reader promotion or book promotion sites that I am aware of. And anyway, I thought it was great. I was happy, sure was.
Good. I'm trying to give you a couple more things. I got you the balloons.
Okay.
Did that work? There we go. There we go.
There we go.
Confetti.
Yay, yeah.
I gave you your
thumbs up.
Fireworks. I gave you the fireworks. Did that go?
Can I do that? Yeah, do it again.
There we go. So, and then of course your hearts. Congratulations. Good job. Where'd the heart go?
But it was
there we go.
Yeah.
Good job.
It was something that, like I said, I didn't know. When you enter these book awards, depending on the kind or the type that you enter, you just never know. Won some regional awards for writing before, but this one was, like I said, it's a lot more widespread. I have a award ceremony in Miami. We haven't decided if we're going yet, and you're supposed to have your books on display. And I've known some other people that have won these awards before and that have gone to it, and it's pretty spectacular. But like I said, that's going to Miami is a pretty big deal. But I'm proud of that because Pringle Prawn is my 8th and latest book. And I've learned a lot about writing, as we all have, from your first book to your last. And I think that all came together for me in Pringle Prawn. So anyway, really proud of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, today is September 11th, so I'm going to take just a quick moment to remember those lives lost on September 11th, 2001, and also the ones that were lost for the ambassador and those that were with him on September 11th, 2012. So just going to take a couple minutes to remember those. Lots of lives lost on this day, and it is a terrible day, but I wanted to remember those lives lost. But today we are also going to be talking to J.R. Knoll. We're going to be talking about fantasy. So welcome, sir.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you. We weren't able to come last week. We had some issues going on with both Mike and I, unfortunately. And it was just one chaotic thing after another. So thank you guys for your understanding. So fantasy, sir. What makes your fantasy different than other people's fantasy? Let's start with that question.
I have spent most of my life, mostly in my younger days, fantasy and science fiction are my favorite genres. I've been a lover of dragons since I was like 4 years old, but I kept seeing the same thing over and over. I'd read a story,
Yeah,
and it was almost the same theme over and over. And this is after a couple of decades of just reading, and you've got your hero who is as strong as he or she might be. They find themselves hopelessly outmatched and somehow manage to win in the end. Okay, we've told that story hundreds of times. I wanted to do something different, so I started breaking rules. If you ask anybody in fantasy who's just really like neck deep in it, they'll tell you the certain constants have to be. You have dragons, you have unicorns. They are mortal enemies. I made friends of them. Kind of allies in the beginning. We open the Chronicles of Relaxos with Shali's quest, and ultimately she thinks they're best friends. He doesn't necessarily share this sentiment, but the series they recur throughout the series. Now my dragon Ralligor he's a powerhouse. He's one of the biggest of his kind, and he's not going to be put down easily. He's also indifferent. So he's got, if he's going to help somebody out, he's really got to be convinced about it. And that's where Shelley generally comes in. Or it has to affect him directly, like in Bounty on a Dragon. Dragon Slayer decides to come in and try his luck in the Ep30 forest, and he ends up tangling with Ralligor's mate. And that turns out to be a huge mistake.
I'm sure.
And the fun part is Ralligor is not the strongest of his kind. There's another dragon in this series they simply call a Garxus the Tyrant. And with good reason. He's a monster. And you just never really know where he stands. Is somebody going to come in? Is he going to do something to help out, or is he just going to kill him outright? He's one of those guys.
Gotcha.
Wow.
So are the dragons the main focus on a lot of them?
The dragons are actually the kind of the top of the food chain. Humans are in there. Our kind, the humans are building castles, they're building societies, they raise armies, they go to war with each other, but they're not top of the food chain. There's several other animals out there, some closer to their size, and then all the way up to the dragons that they have to contend with. Mm-hmm. You've got your heroes who are people calling themselves heroes who are going to take on the dragon. I'm going to go win the bounty and take the dragon's hoard, and he does not understand what he's up against.
And the dragon laughs at him.
You'll see that a few times. But yeah, I write this mostly to have fun. It's currently 9 books strong, working on number 10 and a prequel. And I want to write fun stories for people. I don't want you to have a dictionary and a thesaurus sitting there to try to figure out these big words that I'm conjuring out of the ether. I want easy reads and just something to entertain people. I don't know if I'll ever win awards. I don't know if I'll ever hit the bestseller list, but it's a really nice feeling to tell me when people, have read the stories and come up and say, this was a very unique story and really enjoyed it. When's the next one coming out?
Mm-hmm.
So the dragons are the main characters and focus of your stories, not necessarily humans.
In some of them. Okay. In a couple of stories, the humans are the focus of elven heroes. Of course, there's an elf who's the focus. Human is the main focus in Race the Wyverns. A lot of people associate wyverns with dragons. Well, they're two entirely different animals.
Right.
And I had never seen them in the same story together, as many as I'd read. So I decided, well, I'm going to do it.
Why not?
And it was not a disaster.
Wow.
Wife didn't really care for it because there's no romance in it.
Oh, no.
I put romantic connotations in nearly all of them, mostly for my wife. In fact, I wrote the pirate stories. Rose O'Scarlet, book one is The Vengeance of Cannon Flash Jones. Wrote that as a gift for her birthday, one of the times she turned 29.
One of the times.
Yeah. We decided it would be a standalone, and then the next thing you know, 9 years later, out of the blue, what are you going to write the sequel to Rose? We decided this would be a standalone. Well, now I want a sequel. So that was my cue to drop everything and write the sequel to Rose O'Scarlet, which I did. It's up here somewhere.
So besides your Dragon series, you have others. Are they standalones or are they other series?
I try to write standalones, but everybody wants sequels. I've got Zoe Dead, which is my stab at zombies. There's 4 of those now. It's a story of a 17-year-old girl with a high-functioning form of autism, commonly called Asperger's syndrome. At the height of the zombie apocalypse, she gets bitten, infected, and turned, but the virus cannot rewrite her autistic brain.
Oh.
I'm told that I may have created the cognitive zombie.
Interesting.
And several people told me that I've never even heard about an autistic lead before.
So your main character acts like a zombie, looks like a zombie, but she's retained her same consciousness.
Oh, for 2 chapters, she doesn't even know she's a zombie.
Oh, okay.
Other zombies are going out to eat, human flesh and whatever they can find, and she's scavenging for SpaghettiOs with meatballs. That's her favorite. Wanted to take a stab at vampires, so I wrote Hunters of Darkness, Vampire Rebellion, and people started talking sequels, so I wrote a sequel to that, Rest of the Wicked. Important question I wanted to answer, and that's where half of this stuff comes from. If vampires hunt us, what hunts them? What strikes balance?
Wow.
So
does the question get answered?
Oh boy, does it get answered.
Oh, that's
like I said, if I'm not having fun writing something, then I just kind of stop and write something else.
So are your characters, because I get asked this a lot at book shows, do you have male leads, female leads? Do you have
both?
A mix of both?
Well, as in like in Rose O'Scarlet, obviously the main character in that story is my wife. I plucked her out of the real world and I threw her onto a pirate ship and said, "Go to work." And it's kind of how how Rose O'Scarlet meets Cannon Flash Jones' story. There's this game we play. We haven't played it in a while. It's called The Legend of Pirates Online, based on Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean. In the game, she's Rose O'Scarlet. I'm Captain Cannon Flash Jones. And in the midst of playing this game, I decided I'm going to write her this story. How did Rose meet Cannon Flash? And she absolutely loved it, and it turned into one of my top sellers.
Wow!
Nice.
Wow!
Which I thought was neat.
So you have series, no standalone novels. They're mostly series, or they may have started out as a standalone but turned into a series.
A lot of them that were supposed to be standalones started to spawn more stories. I've got one up there. It's called Brie, like the cheese. It's a cyborg story for teenagers.
Wow.
Currently, it's a standalone. I haven't had anybody ask me for another one yet. I did write Wonder Woman Legacy. Now, this is a not-for-profit deal, and I keep DC kind of in the loop as to what I'm doing. But these books I give to breast cancer survivors and people undergoing breast cancer treatment. It was purpose written to help fight breast cancer.
I see.
And I'm trying to get DC to pick it up. If you want the story, just give a big donation, Breast Cancer Research Foundation or whatever breast cancer outfit of your choice, and here, take it and run with it. And so far, they haven't bitten. So We'll see what happens in the future. But it's not the story of Wonder Woman. It's the story of the daughter she raised in secret for 16 years.
Ooh.
Wow.
And her child is delightfully incompetent.
Oh, no.
Overconfident, but it's a fragile confidence.
So, how long does it take you, JR, if once you get the idea of a novel or a book in your head? How long does it take you generally from start to finish to get your novel completely done and published?
Oh, good heavens! It could take months or years. The first one that I did, Shali's Quest, took overall it took about 24 years.
Wow.
Because she went from short story to longer short story to longer short story to novella to longer novella to short novel, and then I just kept rewriting until I thought I had it right. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. Zoe Undead took 41 days to write just the draft. So she went from conception to in print in about 2 months.
Dang.
It can be done.
Nice.
Wow.
It was just a really quick one. Unicorn's Peril, which is my big one, took 3 years, but I stopped in the middle to write Rose O'Scarlet for my wife. And I still had to show progress on Unicorn's Peril. So now I'm trying to work on 2 completely different stories at the same time, so she doesn't get suspicious, because she didn't know I was writing Rose O'Scarlet for her. Fun times.
Is she watching this? Does she know you're doing it now?
She's at work.
Ah.
I don't know if she's going to come in and watch it later. She'll probably want to see it.
Oh, wow.
Well, just surprise.
She knows I'm doing this, but she's got to work till 4:30 or 5. She's got a real job at the state bar. I've been with Home Depot for 31 years. I don't know what it's like to have a real job.
Wow.
There you go.
So do you have are your novels, are they novellas, full-length novels? Do you have a word count target, or do you just write until you get to the end of what you feel finishes your book?
I pretty much write until I feel the story's done. I've got 2 novellas, Curse of the Spirit Blade, which is attached to the fantasy series, but not part of it. And then Hope, Last Year's Model, which is a robot story for younger readers. Wow. They run about 50,000 words.
So your answering of writing until you feel the story's done kind of answers my question, which is, are you a planner or are you a pantser? Pretty sure you're a pantser.
Yeah, I live by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
Yes.
I got to go on a mini tour with Peter Beagle, and we did a Q&A at a high school, and of course he's up at the podium, and I'm just kind of standing beside him, and a young lady got up and she asked, do you just write? She wants to be a writer. Do you just write, or do you form an outline like we're taught here in school? And Peter just kind of looked at me, because we had talked about this the night before. Neither one of us can work, off of an outline. Then he looked at her and he said, first, I'm going to give you the right answer, and then I'm going to tell you what I really do. So he told her all about writing outlines to stay organized and all that. And then he said, that said, no, I just sit down and write. He does too. I'm not the only one at fault here. He's a neat guy.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, and that's yeah. I go to college, and we had to do speech, and for speech we had to do an outline, and I cringed every time because I'm a pantser extraordinaire, and they made us go off of an outline, and I cringed every time because I'm just like, I hate outlines. I hate going off of outlines. I feel boxed in with outlines. I hate the box. I toss the box. I'm like, I don't even want to look at a box. So I'm just like, I can't stand the box.
Sometimes it would be easier if you had the instruction manual that you're supposed to write, but it's so restrictive.
Yeah. I like breaking the rules, like you.
Yeah.
It's just like I'd rather keep my readers guessing.
Mhm.
I don't like a formula. I don't like, following this little thing. I like mine where it does this, and just when you think you're done, whoop whoop, there's that.
Yeah.
Never know when it's going to write till you've scratched that itch.
You never know till the end what's going to happen in the end.
Right.
Oh, when I was writing Wonder Woman Legacy, I wrote the entire 120,000 word novel. And bear in mind, I just wanted to use this to help fight breast cancer, and I got lost in it somewhere. And I'm thinking at some point, people are going to want to know who her father is.
Mhm.
And I had no idea till I wrote the final sentence of the story. I said, I'm going to reveal it here. I'm going to figure out who her dad is. And I'm going to reveal it at the end of the story because I thought it would be a neat ending.
Mhm.
I was a little surprised when I wrote it.
Well, people are just like, well, how do you know what the end is? And I said, I know the end is when it's the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just as surprised as everybody else when it's at the end. That's the beauty of writing as a pantser.
Peter told me that how we end a story is at least as important as how we begin one.
Mhm. Definitely.
And-
How you end a series is especially just as important
Oh, man.
because some people kill a series by ending it badly.
Yes. Like Firefly. But we
Or
got,
Lost.
we got our
Lost.
closure.
Lost is another one that killed a series ending.
So following that Pantser theme, JR, and going about, I think one of your comments you made earlier. So when you start to write a book that you have series now out of, if I understood what you were saying earlier, you maybe didn't start it out as a series, but it ended up that way. Would that be an accurate statement? Right. Okay. Yeah.
I had one in my head from the time I was like 18 years old, and the dog was already titled. It's called Battle of the Thunderlance. And 40 years later, I'm finally starting to write it because it turns out it is the prequel to this series that started with Shali's Quest. And now I have to write it because it's going to explain things in book 10. It just somehow fell together perfectly. And now I've got to get through it. I'm breaking many more rules in that one.
I think the one thing that was the worst thing for me was rewriting the very first book that I wrote. Have you ever considered doing that?
Rewriting them?
Yeah, like there's usually like one book, and it's usually like the first book that an author put out that is kind of like you shove it to the back of your door because it was the first one, the test the waters type book.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, for me, it had to be rewritten because it was kind of part of a series, but not. It was a standalone, but it was within. There were like 13 books that the series is crossed over, so I actually did need to rewrite it. Have you ever thought about that? And if so, it took me like literally years to rewrite it.
I've mentally made some noise about it. You know, I'd like to open up Shali's Quest, maybe clean up the language, maybe add or take out a few things. Zoe is very quick and abrupt. Like I said, I wrote it really fast. I did go through recently and I cleaned up some of the language. There were still mistakes in it years after I published it. That was a little eye-opening.
Mm-hmm.
But a ground-up rewrite, I don't know if that's in the cards anytime soon.
I think your first book, if you look at, I'm saying, and I think most writers are this way, but I know that I have been, just like you, CJ. It's your first book is probably never going to be as well written as the next book, and certainly not as well written as your last book. And I know I've thought about that a lot of times. My first book was Treasure Hunt Club. I still think it's one of the best stories I've ever written, but it could, like you were saying, CJ, could go back and probably clean up a lot of the writing. Your writing style may not
Mhm.
change much, but there's fewer, as the saying goes, bumps in the road. So I think that's probably
I rewrote it.
yeah,
I actually
yeah,
did rewrite it. I changed the POV. I completely rewrote it.
right.
There was a lot of it resembles it, but a lot of it doesn't. It took a lot. It was painful.
It's a
As
temptation. Yeah, it is
yes.
because your first book again, it's never going to be as
Mhm.
well written in terms
I
of
I'm
style and
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
I'm glad I rewrote it because I'm not embarrassed by it anymore.
Okay.
So it was just very, very
Yeah.
painful.
It's tempting though. It is tempting
Yeah.
to go back and rewrite that. Your
So
first book. Yeah.
as a fantasy author, JR, do you have any advice for somebody who wants to write fantasy?
For somebody who wants to write, period, get out there and live. A lot of people who I know, they got the 9 to 5. So I'm going to go to work and I'm going to come home and I'm going to sit in front of the computer screen and write. But what are you writing? Now, Peter Beagle once told me, um, even as fiction writers, we write what we know.
Mhm.
So if you're out there climbing mountains, hiking in the desert, fishing with your dad, fixing a car, all of that can wind up in your writing. And people don't realize this. Even the little mundane things, washing your dishes, how to fold a fitted sheet, changing a tire, running out in the backyard with your dogs, all of that can pop up. So my best advice is get out there and live you know before you write. Get out there and experience your life, and then you can put that into the lives of your characters.
I'm sure the book events you've done, you have at least one person every time that tells you they're an aspiring author, and
Yes.
yeah, what advice could you give? I think we're all like that. The best answer, CJ, that I thought, and I can't remember the guest we had on, but he was from Houston,
Mhm.
and he said the best advice he gave was because he said his experience was, I'll never forget. He said, one part of my brain is writing the story, and the other part is erasing it as fast as I write it because it's not perfect,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and so it's you can't finish if you don't finish what you start, you can't go back and tweak it or make it better. And like I said, I know every book event I've ever been at, I have two or three people at least, even small venues that say, I'm an aspiring author. What advice can you give? And I think that's pretty good. You have to live a full life and experience things. If you're in a tunnel vision area because you never get out and do anything, it's hard to imagine you having the kind of imagination needed to write, say, fantasy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know,
JR, you have a couple events coming up. What are they and where are they?
I will be at the Big Texas Comic Con at the Henry B. Gonzalez Center in San Antonio. When is that? It's the second weekend in October. I don't
Mhm.
remember the exact dates. That's why I have a wife to remember things for me. And then 2 weeks later, I have Space Con in the Freeman Coliseum, also in San Antonio.
wow.
Very cool.
Both really big shows.
Well,
Should
thank
be
you
a
so
lot
much.
of fun.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it and appreciate your flexibility from last week to this week as
Oh
well.
well, thanks for having me. I'll come back anytime if you like.
CJ,
Awesome.
can I plug something in real quick? I forgot
Uh,
to say that when we started. The Northeast Texas Writers Organization Spring Writers Conference that was scheduled back in April uh, was rescheduled for September, and that will be this Saturday,
oh,
this coming
awesome.
Saturday, the 14th, at the Northeast Texas Community College Humanities Building. It starts at 9 o'clock.
Okay, awesome. And for those who want to learn more about J.R. Knoll, you can find him on Facebook. And that's Facebook, and you can find him under JRKNOLL. And don't forget to head over to where was it again, Mike?
To the Netwell Writers Conference at Northeast Texas Community College Humanities Building this Saturday at 9 o'clock. Starting.
Okay, you're one of the speakers. Mike Wigginton's one of the speakers, and C.I. Chevron one of the speakers.
Yes.
Correct? Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So lots of things going on. Next week, we're going to be starting a series on basically how to get your book launched. We're going to start with book covers. You can judge a book by the cover. So don't miss it. I'll teach you how to do it. We'll check you guys out next week. In the meantime, have a good week. We'll catch you guys next
See ya.
week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.